World History Vault Presents. How they actually built the pyramids, ***. They told you aliens built them. They told you it was impossible. They told you ancient Egyptians couldn't have done it with primitive tools. They were wrong about all of it. The pyramids aren't mysteries. They're masterpieces of human engineering. And the evidence of exactly how they were built has been hiding in plain sight for 4,500 years. No extraterrestrials. No lost advanced civilizations. No magic. Just brilliant problem solving, massive organization, and thousands of workers who knew exactly what they were doing. Today, you're going to learn how the Great Pyramid of Giza was actually constructed, step by step, using only the technology available in 2560 BCE. And by the end of this video, you'll realize that the real story is far more impressive than any alien theory. Before we dive in, drop a comment and tell me, did you think aliens built the pyramids? Be honest. Let's see who's ready to have their mind changed. The scale of the impossible. Let's start with the numbers that make people say impossible. The Great Pyramid of Giza originally stood 481 feet tall. That's a 48-story building. It contains approximately 2.3 million limestone blocks. Each block weighs an average of 2.5 tons. Some of the granite blocks in the King's Chamber weigh 80 tons. The base covers 13 acres and is almost perfectly level, with a margin of error of less than 1 inch across the entire foundation. The four sides are aligned to the cardinal directions with an accuracy of 1/15 of a degree. It was completed in roughly 20 years. That means workers placed one block every 2 minutes, working 10 hours a day, every single day, for 2 decades. When you see those numbers, it's easy to understand why people look for extraordinary explanations. But here's what they miss. The ancient Egyptians didn't do this by accident. They planned it with precision we're only now beginning to fully understand. And the evidence of their methods is everywhere. Myth number 1. Slaves built the pyramids. Let's destroy the biggest lie first. The pyramids were not built by slaves. Hollywood loves showing thousands of whip-scarred workers dragging stones in chains. It's dramatic. It's also completely false. Archaeological evidence proves that pyramid builders were paid laborers. We've found their worker villages, complete with bakeries, breweries, medical facilities, and cemeteries. These weren't slave quarters. They were organized work camps for skilled craftsmen and seasonal laborers. In 2010, archaeologists discovered the tombs of pyramid workers buried near the pyramids themselves. This is significant because slaves would never have been given the honor of burial near a pharaoh's monument. These tombs contained bread, beer, and meat for the afterlife. They were workers, not slaves, and they were respected. Graffiti left by work crews has been found inside the pyramids. One inscription reads, "Friends of Khufu." Another says, "Drunkards of Menkaure." These were organized teams with names, pride, and identity. Mark Lehner, one of the world's leading Egyptologists, estimates that about 20,000 to 30,000 workers built the Great Pyramid, working in rotating shifts. Some were permanent skilled workers, stonemasons, engineers, architects. Others were seasonal laborers, likely farmers who worked on the pyramid during the Nile's flood season when their fields were underwater anyway. They were fed, housed, and paid, not enslaved. Now that we've cleared that up, let's talk about how they actually did it. If you're learning something new, hit that subscribe button. World History Vault is here to replace myths with facts. Step 1. The foundation. Before you can build the world's most perfect pyramid, you need the world's most perfect foundation. The builders of the Great Pyramid chose the Giza Plateau for a reason. It's solid limestone bedrock. No shifting sand, no unstable soil. Just rock. But even bedrock isn't perfectly flat. So the Egyptians leveled it. How? They used water. Engineers carved shallow channels into the bedrock and filled them with water. Water always finds its own level. By measuring from the waterline, they could identify high spots and carve them down until the entire foundation was level. The result? A base covering 13 acres with less than 1 inch of variation. That's extraordinary precision using only copper tools, water, and patience. Once the foundation was level, They laid the first course of massive limestone blocks directly onto the bedrock. This created a stable platform that has lasted 4,500 years. And here's something most people don't realize. The bedrock itself becomes part of the pyramid. The core of the structure incorporates natural stone outcroppings, reducing the amount of material that needed to be moved. Smart, efficient, and elegant. Step 2. Quarrying the stones. 2.3 million blocks don't appear by magic. They had to be cut from quarries. Most of the pyramid's limestone came from quarries right next to the construction site. The fine white casing stones came from Tura, across the Nile. The granite for the king's chamber came from Aswan, 500 miles south. So how did they cut stone without steel tools? Copper tools and stone hammers. Before you say impossible, understand this. You don't need harder tools if you have the right technique. Egyptian workers used copper chisels and pounded them with stone hammers along natural fissures in the limestone. They also used wooden wedges. Here's the technique. Workers carved slots into the rock, inserted dry wooden wedges, then soaked the wedges with water. As the wood expanded, it split the stone along controlled lines. We know this worked because we found ancient quarries with partially cut blocks still attached to the bedrock, showing exactly how the process worked. For granite, which is much harder, they used dolerite balls, extremely hard stones that workers pounded against granite to pulverize it along cutting lines. It's slow, exhausting work, but it works. Modern experiments have replicated these techniques successfully. It takes time and effort, but it's entirely possible with Bronze Age technology. Comment below. Would you have wanted to be a quarry worker? Let's talk about how hard this job really was. Step 3. Transporting the blocks. Now comes the part that makes people scream, aliens. How do you move 2.5-ton blocks of stone without wheels, without metal tools, without modern machinery? Simple. You drag them. In 2014, a team of physicists from the University of Amsterdam discovered something brilliant in ancient Egyptian artwork. Paintings from the time show workers pouring water in front of sledges carrying massive stones. For years, historians thought this was ceremonial. It wasn't. It was physics. When you wet sand, it becomes twice as easy to drag heavy objects across it. The water creates capillary bridges between sand grains, dramatically reducing friction. The Dutch team tested this and found that the right amount of water can reduce the force needed to pull a sledge by 50%. The Egyptians knew this 4,500 years ago. So workers placed limestone blocks on wooden sledges, wet the sand in front, and teams of men pulled them using ropes. Recent estimates suggest that 20 to 30 men could move a 2.5-ton block this way. For the massive granite blocks weighing 80 tons? More men, stronger sledges, and careful coordination. But what about getting stones up the pyramid as it grew taller? Step 4. Ramps. This is where the real engineering genius appears. And it's also where most alien theorists give up and say impossible. The pyramid rises 481 feet. You can't just lift multi-ton stones that high. So the Egyptians built ramps. But what kind of ramps? This is where Egyptologists have debated for decades. Several theories exist, and the truth is probably that they used different ramp systems at different stages of construction. The straight ramp theory asterisk a single long ramp leading straight up one face of the pyramid. The problem? As the pyramid grew taller, the ramp would need to grow longer and steeper. Eventually, it would require more material than the pyramid itself. The spiral ramp theory asterisk a ramp that spiraled up around the outside of the pyramid as it grew. This solves the length problem but creates a new one. How do you maintain the pyramid's precise corners when they're covered by ramps? The internal ramp theory asterisk French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin proposed this in 2007. He suggests that after the first third of the pyramid was built with external ramps, the Egyptians switched to a spiral ramp built inside the pyramid itself, just beneath the outer casing stones. Houdin's theory is supported by thermal imaging and microgravimetry studies that show density anomalies inside the Great Pyramid consistent with internal cavities that could be collapsed ramps. In 2017, Archaeologists discovered a 4,500-year-old ramp system at the Hatnub Alabaster Quarry that uses a steep ramp with 2 staircases and post holes for ropes. This shows that the Egyptians had sophisticated ramp technology that allowed them to pull extremely heavy stones up steep inclines using a pulley-like system. The bottom line? The Egyptians had multiple ramp techniques, and they adapted their methods as the pyramid grew. No aliens required. Just smart engineering. If you're still watching, you're about to learn the most mind-blowing part. Stay with me. Step 5. Precision alignment ***. Here's where people lose their minds. The Great Pyramid sides are aligned to true north with an accuracy of 1/15 of a degree. How is that possible without compasses or GPS? Astronomy. The ancient Egyptians were master astronomers. They tracked the stars obsessively, and they used the stars to align their monuments. One method they likely used is called the Indian circle method. Here's how it works. At night, drive a vertical pole into the ground. Tie a rope to it, and use it to draw a perfect circle in the sand. Throughout the night, track the rising and setting points of a particular star as it crosses the circle. Mark these points. The line connecting them runs perfectly east-west. The perpendicular line runs perfectly north-south. It's simple, elegant, and requires only careful observation. We know the Egyptians used this method because they describe similar astronomical observations in their texts, and the alignment of every major pyramid confirms they had mastered stellar navigation. They didn't need modern technology. They had the night sky. Step 6. The casing stones. When the pyramid was completed, it didn't look like the rough, stepped structure you see today. It was covered in smooth, brilliant white limestone casing stones that fit together so perfectly, you couldn't slide a knife blade between them. These casing stones were quarried at Tura and transported across the Nile. Each stone was cut to fit precisely with its neighbors, creating a smooth, reflective surface that shone in the Egyptian sun. Ancient historians describe the pyramid as gleaming, like a jewel. Some accounts say you could see it from 100 miles away. Most of these casing stones were stripped away in the 13th and 14th centuries when Cairo was rebuilt after an earthquake. People used pyramid stones to construct mosques and buildings. Only a few casing stones remain at the base today, but they show the extraordinary precision of Egyptian stone cutting. Each casing stone was positioned, checked, adjusted, and locked into place. The outer surface was then polished smooth. The result was one of the most visually stunning structures ever created. The workforce. How they organized 20,000 people. Managing 20,000 workers across 20 years is as impressive as the engineering itself. The Egyptians created one of history's most sophisticated large-scale work organizations. We've discovered their worker villages. They include bakeries that produced thousands of loaves daily, breweries for beer rations, medical facilities with evidence of healed fractures and successful surgeries, organized housing for different work crews, administrative buildings for record-keeping. Workers were divided into crews with names like Friends of Khufu and Drunkards of Menkaure. These crews competed against each other, fostering pride and productivity. It's ancient project management. They worked in rotating shifts. Farmers came during flood season when they couldn't work their fields. Skilled craftsmen stayed year-round. Everyone was fed, housed, and apparently given beer rations. Recent analysis of worker remains shows they ate meat regularly, a luxury in ancient Egypt. These weren't starving slaves. They were valued workers on the greatest project of their civilization. Drop a comment. Would you have wanted to work on the pyramids? Let's hear your honest thoughts. Why the alien theories are insulting? Let's address this directly. The alien pyramid theory isn't just wrong. It's offensive. When you say, ancient people couldn't have built this, so aliens must have, you're saying that Africans, Arabs, and ancient civilizations couldn't possibly have been smart enough to engineer something impressive. That's not respect for ancient cultures. That's dismissal. The truth is far more amazing. Human beings 4,500 years ago were just as intelligent as we are today. They didn't have our technology, but they had time, organization, knowledge, and determination. They studied mathematics, astronomy, and engineering. They ran sophisticated state projects. They passed knowledge through generations. They experimented, failed, learned, and tried again. The pyramids aren't evidence of aliens. They're evidence of human brilliance. And when we credit aliens instead of the Egyptians who actually built these monuments, we rob those ancient engineers of the recognition they deserve. The evidence is everywhere. We're not guessing about any of this. The evidence is extensive. Ancient quarries with cutting marks and unfinished blocks. Worker villages with tools, housing, and administrative records. Graffiti left by work crews inside the pyramids. Tomb paintings showing construction techniques. Mathematical papyri detailing Egyptian engineering knowledge. Experimental archaeology proving these methods work. The pyramids themselves, which show clear evidence of construction progression. Egyptologist Mark Leiner has spent 40 years excavating pyramid worker sites. His work has revealed detailed evidence of how the workforce was fed, housed, and organized. Engineer Craig Smith has successfully moved multi-ton blocks using ancient techniques. It's hard work, but it's entirely possible. This isn't speculation. It's documented history. The real mystery. Here's what should blow your mind. The Great Pyramid remained the tallest human-made structure in the world for 3,800 years. From 2560 BCE until 1311 CE, when Lincoln Cathedral was completed. Think about that. For nearly 4,000 years, no civilization anywhere on Earth built anything taller. That's not because they couldn't. It's because the pyramid represented a unique combination of resources, ambition, political power, religious motivation, and engineering knowledge that rarely aligns in human history. The Egyptians did something extraordinary, not because they had help from aliens or lost technology, but because they were brilliant, organized, and determined. That's the real story, and it's far more inspiring than any alien theory. If this video changed how you see the pyramids, smash that like button and subscribe to World History Vault. We're replacing ancient alien nonsense with actual history. The takeaway: the pyramids aren't impossible. They're proof of what humans can achieve when we combine intelligence, organization, and persistence. Every time someone says ancient people couldn't have done this, they're underestimating human potential. We've always been capable of greatness. The pyramids prove it. So next time someone tells you aliens built the pyramids, you can tell them exactly how wrong they are. And you can explain, step by step, how 20,000 workers, 20 years, and brilliant engineering created one of the greatest structures in human history. No extraterrestrials. No magic. Just humans doing extraordinary things. Drop a comment below. What's the most impressive human achievement in history? Let's celebrate what we're capable of. And if you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of viewer World History Vault needs. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and let's keep uncovering the real stories that shaped our world. The pyramids stand as monuments to human genius. And now you know exactly how they did it.